Welcome back to another special edition of the Habs BRUNCH, your Sunday rendezvous with the hockey coach, Guru Coach Francis, directly for the beautiful country of the Canadiens. And we have to go all the way directly from Ottawa. The co-host, Mr. Marko Larabie, is in the house this morning.
There you go. Happy Sunday, everyone. Hope everybody set their clocks. Hopefully it doesn't screw with your sleeping habits as much as it does with mine. I hate when we have to change the time, coach. So I guess people in Thailand are special. You guys don't have to screw with your whole life once a year.
I know
Lucky.
it's funny here. We don't change the hours at all. So it's the same thing. It's funny because I was here 1 hour waiting for both of you. So they are late this morning, but it looked like I figured out it was no chin time here in Thailand. So it's pretty cool about this. Honestly, we have a couple of continents to talk about today, Mr. Marko. First of all, going to review in the week number 4 already. Man, amazing how the time flying, Meister. And then we have a duel today. But now it's not the same duel you have last week. You have a new partner face opponent this morning. And then week number 5, Montreal back on the ice with 3 games next week. So we're going to talk about the upcoming weeks for sure. So anything you want to add before we move on to the warm-up?
No, let's jump in, Coach. I'm ready for the warm-up. Let's do this thing.
Here we go. Let's do it. Hey, yes, she's back after 2 weeks off for fun other things she has to do, but she's back in the house. Mr. Marko, we talk about Karine Hains from the Bars Hockey. Welcome back, Karine, on the beautiful Sunday morning.
Thank you very much. It's nice to be back.
That'd be great to having you. Of course, first of all, any news you want to bring, Karine, for the last 2 weeks or something like this around you? Any update you want to mention?
What can I say? Well, last night the PHL started its season with its brand new team, the Montreal Force. That's the new Montreal professional women's hockey team. Obviously, it doesn't feature the best players of the PWHPA like Marie-Philippe Poulin and the likes. They're still holding out for a league with better salaries, better conditions, and all that. But Anne-Sophie Betté, who most fans will know, scored the franchise first goal, and they won their first game 5-4 against the Buffalo Beauts. So, yay.
Looking great about this. The reason I ask you this question, I have another question, because one weekend you missed because you have an opportunity to meet Brendan Gallagher. So maybe in 1 minute, 30 seconds, 1 minute, can you tell a little bit more about that day?
Yeah, it was actually a public signing session organized by Memorable Authentic and Mascouche, and I was really stressed out because the night before is the night where he actually crashed in the board's knee first. And
That's true.
Left the game a couple of times and was just like, oh my God, is the signing going to happen now? And there he was, obviously, and I couldn't help myself. I said, so Gally, how's the knee? And I was like, it's all right. But you just know he's that type of guy who could be like suffering like hell and still say, it's all right, there's no problem. So yeah, that was a fun signing. I actually brought my game used gloves for him to sign the gloves he wore in the Stanley Cup final. And he was like, oh man, these ones, I remember these ones. They saw a lot of mileage. I was like, yeah, I know. And then I got him to sign a big kind of laminate of the Winter Classic from the game they beat Boston at the Patriots home in 2016. Cool. And I got him to inscribe it with comeback games, since that's the first game he was back from breaking his hand. So yeah, that's kind of a unique piece for the collection. So yeah, that was a good...
That was a great game.
That's awesome. So, Marko, ready to rock and roll?
Let's do it, man.
All right, let's do it. The first thing we'll go to reviewing the week number 4 of Montreal Canadiens. Of course, they have, on a set, I believe this is the first week where they are no W, and they are 0-2-1. We're going to talk about the 3 game here. The Minnesota, they play Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. So I will let you down jumping. Marko, let's starting with you, and then Karine will follow you.
Yeah, I think last week, Coach, when we had Entertap on, we all knew it was going to be a tough week. I think I'd predicted that they were going to get 1 win. I thought they would have maybe won against Winnipeg just because they have a lot of injuries right now. They came pretty close. Entertap ended up predicting correctly, I think, that day that they were going to lose in overtime. So kudos to him. So, I think this week is the exact snapshot of what we expected going into the season. Some exciting games and some, mixed results, right? Like not really getting the result that we wanted, but having a good time along the way. So I think overall, that's kind of my impression for this week is, we had some nice moments, but there's still some underlying things that are causing some big problems in terms of getting results. But we knew that was going to happen, so that's okay. That's part of the process. But I think it was really exciting to see Edmondson come back to the lineup. We finally saw Martin Saint-Louis take some pretty, I wouldn't say bold moves, but finally being able to sit Hoffman for a game or two. I think the fan base was pretty excited to see that. So I think right now we're going to be entering that new phase. This is probably the last week here where teams are really starting to get warmed up. Like if you watch some other games around the league, you can see teams are taking another step right now. Games are starting to get real. Like if you watch that Toronto-Boston game yesterday, some other games, things are getting real. So this week might be a teaser of what we see moving forward here in terms of results, and that's fine. We've been trying to caution everybody, over the first month here that, okay, guys, we're 5-4 or whatever, 4-3. It's not going to be like this. So hopefully people are not too disappointed with the results and just enjoying the ride at this point.
Good. Karine?
Yes, it's 3 losses, but it doesn't feel like 3 losses, if you know what I mean, because it was exciting hockey, it was fun hockey to watch, and, last night they were actually taking on Vegas, who was red hot and came in with like a 6-win streak, and yet they had no problem hanging with them. I mean, it did finish 6-4, and at one stage Vegas was way ahead, but they didn't give up. They've got what they need to compete, so... we're far from last year when they were 3 defeats and the fan base basically wanted to shoot itself. Now it's like they're losing, yes, but we're seeing a lot of positives, and like Marko said, starting to be some interesting movement as well. I mean, it's not because you earn 4 or 5 millions that your spot on the lineup is safe, and that's brilliant to see, obviously. Was glad to see Eddie back as well, although yesterday it showed that, he's not in game shape yet. There was quite a few turnovers. It was like, oh, the air. But, he will get there eventually. He's still a really good defender. He just has to, hit his stride type of thing. So, yeah, I thought it was a very good week overall and quite enjoyable watching. Yeah.
That's great. Here I'm going to give you, and we did not talk about this before the show start, because now I'm just thinking about this. They are 1-4-1 in the last 6 games. If you see the pattern of those games, they are Dallas, Minnesota, Vegas, Winnipeg. What they have all in common, they are big, heavy forward. Their forechecking is almost similar, where they bring a lot of forechecking on the defenseman. I think that's one of the problems they still have, Montreal Canadiens, and they did not react very well overall. Whatsoever, you're absolutely right. You compete, but you can see when they face to the bigger team, we have really a good forechecking. That's a little bit what they have struggled a little bit. But again, for the first time, I believe Martin Saint-Louis Campbell this weekend, yesterday, and he make a mistake when he bring the chemistry with Edmondson and Harris together. You can see this was the worst game of Jordan Harris in the beginning of the season because you can see the chemistry was not there. And, play with Kovacevic and now play with Edmondson was very difficult to see that. So it's happened. We brought up the equation. Unfortunately, does not work, but that shows sometimes that when the chemistry is not there. And on the flip side, when he did very well, he won the jackpot. So when he put Kirby Daka with Cole Caulfield and, of course, Nick Zuski, and that's bring my next point for you guys. 18 goal for all 3 together. I think 8-8-2. and that's gave them of the 34 goal they have. So I would love to hear from you what you think about this special trio.
Well, if I can go first, I early on in the season, I'll be honest, Dak annoyed me. I think everyone knows I like the Gallagher type of player, the guy who's gonna go in, who's gonna be gritty, who's gonna push. Whereas Dak, well, is more like he's gonna dazzle you with some nice moves, but if he hits a wall, he's not gonna break through that wall. He's not gonna battle extremely hard, but he's got skills that a Gallagher doesn't have. So I guess you just have to learn to like his style and how he plays. Once you get over that and you realize, okay, that's not that type of player, but he does have some great attributes, then you can realize, yeah, okay, it is working with Caulfield and Suzuki. But the problem lies with the fact that they went out and they got him to be a second center. Now, if he stays on the wing, that's not going to happen. And the never-ending story of the Montreal Canadiens looking for a second-line center will have to go ahead. If it goes ahead and the Canadiens start losing and they can draft high at the next draft, then fine. But right now, if that first line keeps producing, if those young defensemen keep on playing as they have been playing, Canadiens are too good to draft that high come July. So what happens then? Do you like bank on Owen Beck being good enough to be a second C? I think it's too early to make that kind of gamble. So, you find yourself with a bit of a problem. So for now, I'll say I like the first line, but I'm not sure it's a solution more than it is maybe a stopgap until someone like maybe Slavkovsky is ready to step up and have a bigger role. I'm not willing to say, okay, for the next 5 years, this is going to be first line, this is it. No, hang on a minute. There's more to it than that. That's my take on it anyway. Marco.
Marco?
Yeah. So just to tag on to what you said, so listen, it's a very small sample size with Doc on the wing. You're right. They were definitely penciling him in as a center. We'll see where it goes. I still think it's quite possible and quite, likely that they'll draft in the top 8 at least. And I still think you get a really high end center in that spot. But so a couple of things though about the first line performance. Let's take a moment to actually really acknowledge here. Suzuki has as many goals as Caulfield. Did anybody predict that going into the season? Like, that is kind of surprising and great. Like, I projected Suzuki maybe to one day be a 25 goal scorer, but so it's exciting. But on the other hand, similar to what we're talking about before about having fans really manage their expectations about results, the one thing when you look at Suzuki, his finishing, like his shooting percentage or his finishing, I think is up like 18% over last year. So that's something to keep in mind. It might not be sustainable, right? So his finishing is way above what we normally see. Now, again, this might just be the real Suzuki, his third full season in the NHL, and this is who he's going to be. So maybe, let's hope so. But let's just acknowledge that that's a little bit different from Suzuki to see him finish that much. And so overall, I like the chemistry of the line. I agree, Karine, like the attributes that really make him valuable in that line right now, in my opinion. And again, you think you have to hit people and be aggressive to do this, like Anderson or Gallagher, but he's very good at takeaways and very good at kind of like causing, like, at his board battles. But he doesn't really do it with an aggressive play, but it's slick little kind of like stick moves to kind of to strip guys, kind of like Mark Stone, how he's really good at takeaways. So to me, how you do it is less important, but it's causing turnovers or being able to keep the play alive in the offensive zone on a cycle, or being able to retrieve the puck on a power play. Those are the kinds of little plays, on top of his amazing playmaking and stuff like that. That's, I think, what he's really bringing to that line. But I think we all really suspect that Slafkovsky is going to be amazing at those things too, right? That's kind of why we drafted him, is being that player that can control the cycle, come off the boards, come towards the middle of the ice, have really nice give and go plays with his teammates. To me, it's surprising that Slafkovsky has 3 goals because he didn't have any goals during the preseason. We were concerned that he wasn't going to score and he was just going to have assists, and now he's kind of like got the Cy Young thing going on here with only 3 goals and no assists. So it's an interesting first line.
And on just about what you said about Slav having 3 goals in his first 9 games, Grant McCagg last night on Twitter pulled out a graphic of, former first overall picks at 18 years old, NHL rookies in the last 40 years. Alexandre Daigle had 5 goals in his first 9 games. Lindros, 5 goals in 10 games. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, 5 goals in 12 games. McDavid, 5 goals in 13 games. Slav comes in at 5th with 3 goals in 9 games. And if you go down the list, you've got Crosby, who had 2 goals in his first 12. McKinnon, 2 goals in his first 17. Stamkos, 2 in his first 22. Le Cavalier, 1 in his first 10. So it's an interesting graphics to look. But the fact that Daigle is at the top of that list with 5 goals in his first 9 game is a reminder not to get overexcited over,
for sure.
early results. But that made me smile yesterday. I was like, well, that's interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting.
Suzuki is at 25.8.
Compared to
usually it was at 12.3, but yeah, the same kind of number, the shot, maybe a little bit like 0.6 more shot per game right now, but he never, last season he shot only 186, but we can see he had tendency to shoot a little bit more, or he tried to shoot more. So this is a shot on the net, not like missing the attempt, maybe like that. So you can see that and kind of stuff like that. I want to bring you here for the combo about Suzuki and Caulfield. If you look about this 14 plus point with a winger and a center, age 23 or younger in the season, you can see the list of players all together. We talk about Marner, Matthews, Pedersen, Bowser, Marner, Matthews, Ratanen, McKinnon, Bonk, and Osa, and Modano and Mike Gregg. Unfortunately for Mike Gregg, maybe the only one on the list never have a good career, but otherwise, otherwise, pretty cool about this one. We're there to see them, to see that list of players they are, and they are only like 23 or 21 and 21, 3 players together. It's pretty amazing about that one over there. So
it's fun times, man. It's fun times to watch for sure, but don't be upset if the production slows down a little bit. As long as they're competing and making it fun. Right now, it's really fun to watch. But let's hope it continues.
So Montreal now is 5-6-1, 34 goal, and again 40 goal again. So they are differential -6. But like we do every single week, we ask you about who stood out about the 3 game or during the weeks. And not particularly specific game, whatever it is, maybe you can give us one specific player you really was more impressive for you during the week.
I'd like to go with Samuel Montembeault, actually. For last year I was quite critical of him, saying that he was inconsistent, he was showing his limitations and all that, and geez, this year, he's looking really well. I mean, the Canadiens have only, 40 goals against, you just said? It would be a lot worse if the goaltending hadn't been as good as it has been. And Montembeault's been, really, really solid in net, and that's a big surprise to me. Obviously, after the game he lost in Winnipeg, I would have given him last night's game. I thought he deserved it because of the way he played in Winnipeg. He kept them in, but then Jake Allen, yesterday played a solid one as well. So I think I'm going to want to say, wow, to the goaltending, really. I did not see that coming, and I think they're a big reason why this team is doing as it is right now. Because if the goaltending hadn't been as solid as it has been, we're looking at being, further down the standings. So that's what stood out for me this week.
Awesome. Marco?
Yeah, so I don't know, not to me, the biggest change, the thing that stood out to me is last week, my standout was that whole Dvorak, Gallagher, and Anderson line. How we talked about how they were playing the right way, driving the net. So I think what stands out to me still, my concern over the long term, and why, again, like I don't think the production that they've seen is sustainable, is they're still just not getting to the middle of the ice as much as they need to with their chances. A lot of the goals are still really to the outside. So I guess that's what stood out to me as a bit of a regression for the positive things that I saw last week with some of the lines. So, I'd like to see maybe a little bit of shaking up again with that line. Like I think he did move away from, I think because Dvorak was hurt at some point during the game yesterday, but he started shuffling a little bit in game with that line. So yeah, like not as strong of a week for that line. And again, like you showed, like, the production is really only coming from one line right now. And so they're going to need to find some solutions to get some more production further down the lineup. And, I really believe that for that line, even though it worked in a short period of time, it's kind of putting all your eggs in one basket, because you have three players that do play a bit more of an inside game, either Anderson, Gallagher, and Dvorak, and you're putting them all together. It's kind of not really the right chemistry of a line. So I'll be curious to see, how Martin Saint-Louis deals with that. And the other thing that stood out to me was Martin Saint-Louis, when he was the same question that you brought up, Coach, at the beginning, the pattern of how the Habs are dealing with really heavy teams. And I thought his answer was really interesting, because most people would think, okay, so really where things are failing is in the D zone, because they keep, the D gets trapped and everything else in their zone. But Martin Saint-Louis' kind of approach that is very different and interesting. He's like, well, really, maybe we shouldn't just be looking at what we're doing in the defensive zone. Maybe we should be looking at that we're not staying in the offensive zone long enough to take pressure away from the defensemen that are young and getting clobbered by these bigger teams. So to me, it's an interesting approach of not just looking, okay, so how do we get out of our zone quickly, and how do we are efficient in our zone, but it goes all the way back to the offensive zone and how you're allowing teams to break into your zone. So that's kind of what stood out to me, and something I'll be looking out for to see if they'll be able to continue to improve, because there's a lot of heavy teams and it's going to be something that they need to continue to work on.
That's a great point, actually. I don't know if you noticed yesterday, but I was amazed at Sean Monahan. Sean Monahan was a real pest on the forecheck last night. He was going at guys with his sticks and creating havoc all night. I like that. And even if he was alone and he was dispossessing other guys, he's really, really good at taking the puck, hanging onto it, and waiting for his guys to get there. I was impressed by Sean Monahan last night. I don't know if I'm the only one who noticed that, but I was like,
he had a tough assignment, right? Like playing with Hoffman and Drouin, so that's not an easy assignment. I think he did okay.
Yeah, I don't know if he struggled, but he didn't have no point since the beginning, the first week, I think, so far. So it's another player where I believe, like, that's another subject a little bit later about what he's going to do to put the people where they need to trade them, and he don't put them on the productivity. But to answer back to Martin Saint-Louis, yes, that's the one way to see that. But if you don't find a solution when they're on the zone, that would not help him. Right?
Well, no, of course. I'm not saying you can't. Like, of course, that's still a thing. But rather than just looking at it solely of how you're dealing with it.
It's called the puck possession. They have only 4 games on the 12. They have barely over 50% CF. So that's the biggest problem they have. They are outshot 8 of the 12 game. They are outshot them. So they have a really difficult time. So the puck possession is not good enough to compete with those kind of teams. The way he see that. So something happening yesterday during the game between Vegas Golden Knight, almost maybe at half of the third period. It was the Josh Anderson hit from the boarding Alex Provenzolo, and you see a 3 white jersey straight on the red. It looked like he's a 6'3". He disappeared. Like, I didn't see Josh Anderson for about 10 seconds. I don't know where he been, but you cannot see him at all. And but anyhow, I want to know a bit more what you think about this, and if it was necessary or not, and then what you believe the NHL is going to give him to him.
Well, first of all, I'm surprised that Austin Matthews didn't fight Josh Anderson. No, I'm just joking. Yeah, listen, like I don't think Anderson necessarily meant to nail him from behind. These things happen pretty quickly, but you're ultimately responsible. So what I would say, it's a reckless hit. It wasn't necessarily ill. There wasn't like ill will, or it wasn't maliciously intended, but it's reckless. You have to be responsible for hitting somebody from behind. I was surprised how quickly Pietrangelo got up, because that was kind of like Gumby style. Like when he hit the boards, like his body was kind of contorted and his neck hit the boards. And so how many games? I wouldn't be surprised if it's one game. I don't think Anderson has a history, if I stand to be corrected, but I don't think he does. So, I don't think there was anything. Sometimes they look at kind of the history of the game, and was there, like a little bit of a history during the game, like Anderson was trying to get revenge for something. I didn't see anything like that. I think it was just a poor decision, a split-second decision. He needs to be held accountable, but he did. It was pretty early in the game. What they look at too is, so he got a 5 and he was ejected from the game, and it was still pretty early in the game. Like he missed almost a whole period. So I'd be surprised if it was more than one game.
Karine?
Yeah, I think they're probably gonna go for one game, and I don't know what went through his mind, but the thing is with Anderson, I think sometimes he's playing frustrated, and last night might have been one of those times, because he's got, some consistency issues. One game he's gonna be great, and then another game you're not gonna see him at all, and I think that's part of the reason why Columbus was willing to let him go for just Max Domi in return, really. I think it wasn't just about the health and the shoulder issues. I think there's a consistency issues there. And, maybe he's getting a bit frustrated right now, because he's not really doing all that much. Like you said last week, I did like the Anderson, Dvorak, and Gallagher line at first. But now it's not really gelling as much as it was, and Anderson is there and he's looking at things and he's thinking, right, so we've got a first wave of power play with 5 forwards and I'm not even on that, and then there's the other line and I'm not on, there's the other unit and I'm not on that one either. And I can see why he's not there, because clearly if you want to be on the power play, well, earn it. But in his mind, he might be starting to think, okay, this is annoying. You see this guy like Hoffman, who's in and out of the lineup, and yet you put him back on the power play still when he's back. Why? So I'm not saying that he took it out on Pietrangelo. I don't know, but I get the feeling he's playing frustrated right now. But yeah, like you, I think one game will be the verdict on that one.
I think it was and not necessary to hit a 5-2 anyway, and I will go with 2 game. Or that one over there. Who got 2 games recently was not like, it was shocking to me. Someone got 2 game. Do you remember who he was? Like, he was not a big hit.
Can't remember, to be honest. I don't remember somebody getting 2 games this year.
Because I remember, like, he was compared to the slash of the Kuznetsov in the face of Burroughs. I said, geez, like, well, he got 2 games in this and he got only 1 game. So, anyhow, I just want to say that. So, I'm going to shocking you because we have more time. So, I'm going to give you a question. Do you trade Josh Anderson or not?
I would. I would have last year. Yeah.
Karine?
I think I would as well. I mean, when they signed the long-term contract, I did say, well, that's a big gamble. But, the Canadiens were looking for power forward. They hadn't had that. Now, though, if you look around, you see that they've got Slavkovsky, who might just be able to fit that bill. And, if somebody wants Anderson, considering, the health history and the consistency issues, yeah, I'm willing to trade him. I am.
That's a great point, both of you. I would say to yes, because you still have a $5.5 million, and I don't think so. He's a top 6. He's more like a bottom 6, and that costs too much a long term for me. And the fact the value of him would be very important at the trade deadline and upcoming. I think they can get something, a first round pick in return, because I don't think so any other one can give them a first round pick or a high pick. So I think that would be a good year to do it with Josh Anderson, I think. And
there's not a lot. Well, like, again, he has some consistency issues. but there's still not a lot of guys like him, right? So if you're a Calgary, or even like we talked about Toronto recently, coach, about needing a bit of sandpaper in their lineup. If you put him with some really good players, again, he doesn't have the hockey IQ to really produce. But if you just want him making space and being power horse and just running up and down the ice, making hits, and still maybe potting you 15 goals or whatever, and you saw he was a pretty good performer in the playoffs too, right? So I think he was a very valued commodity last year. So hopefully that hasn't changed too much, and he would be a good addition to one of those contending teams.
Awesome.
Plus
Go ahead.
Plus the other thing is that we know Kent Hughes would like to get another first round pick for the next draft, and he was perhaps hoping to trade Hoffman, Dadonov, or someone like that. But those guys are not going to bring you that kind of return, not with what they're doing right now. So you need to think outside the box and come to the conclusion that got to give something to get something, and that something might just have to be Anderson or Monahan. But for Monahan to get that kind of value, though, you need to find him better wingers than Drouin and Hoffman so that he can shine.
That's great.
Yeah.
A couple of questions, guys, about, we still have a couple more minutes. First question is about who is the best bounce back send for the Montreal Canadiens after a 12-game?
Bounce back. Marco?
Yeah, I'll steal your thought from earlier. I'd say Montembeault is probably the best bounce back so far, right? Like, I think we've seen a good progression with him. I think we all admired how he was fighting in the crease, and he was put in a very tough position last year. But it looks like he really put in the work with Raymond this summer to be a little bit more quiet in the crease. So I'd say so far, not that he had a terrible season last year, but so if maybe it's more like who's had the best progression or one of the really good progression. But if you look at Montembeault's numbers, it is a bounce back. Even though he was fighting in there, the numbers weren't very good. So I'll go with Montembeault.
If we're going season, last season from this season, I'm gonna say Caulfield. I know he finished the season right, but if you think about how he was playing at the start of last season, he was probably somewhere on the fourth line begging for ice time, whereas now he's lighting up the league. So that's quite the bounce back, and it's also a proof that it wasn't just the novelty effect of having Saint Louis as a coach. That effect is there to stay. Caulfield has been unleashed, so to speak. So
maybe not the number, but he still find out this way. I said Gallagher. I thought you're going to go with Gallagher. I still, for me, is Gallagher. Maybe not have the goal, but the way he play right now is the Gallagher we knew like a couple of years ago. And I think would be my one of the, because you mentioned Montembeault. But for me, it would be Gallagher because he brings something. We didn't see him and he's really, he's really controlling. He play about 13 minutes, 12, 13, 15, 40 minutes. Never barely play over 50 minutes. So that gave him a bit more better. He just have, by the way, he didn't have no goal. Like the outcome is not there. But most of the game, he have the XGF a lot. Is the best number one with Montreal Canadiens right now. So percentage of goal is not there yet, but I think overall, for me, because you have a lot of opportunity, you have 2-3 breakaway, 2 versus 1, and everything like that. It's just he cannot finishing right now. He missed a great one-timer from a great pass of Cole Caulfield. I think it was the Thursday night. So that would be. At what
point does it become really concerning, though? Right, like with his finishing, like because he's similar to what Karine was saying about Anderson, how Anderson can play frustrated. I think we all have seen Gallagher can kind of get in his own head and get frustrated as well too. So hopefully that little devil on his shoulder doesn't start affecting his overall play. Like just keep doing what you're doing. It's just math. That at some point some of it's gonna turn around. But let's just hope that his emotions don't get the better of him and starts affecting his play.
So my next question for you guys, you're doing well so far. Who is the best new addition for the Montreal Canadiens on any way? Signature, trade, claim, name it, said it, do it. But who is the best new addition for the Montreal Canadiens for this season so far?
I
Could be a
think I'd have
rookie,
to
by the
go.
way.
Yeah, I think I'd have to go with Goulet on that one because wow, he's been doing well. The guy's been performing, and because of all the injuries, obviously, he's been kind of put in the deep end right away as on the first pairing of defensemen with someone who shouldn't be on the first pairing in David Savard, and yet it's worked very well. So, I'm impressed with Caden Goulet. I'm not easily impressed by defensemen. I prefer like attacking hockey and all that kind of things, but he's playing a solid game, and to me, he's turning into like the heir apparent to Shea Weber. He's big, he can hit, and yeah, I like what I'm seeing from the kid, and I'm glad that he's not sinking, but he's swimming, even though he's in the deep end. So that's impressive.
Marco?
I'll take what you said even a step further, and we'll go meta on kind of what you're saying. To me, the most important addition so far, Stéphane Robida, because yes, we've seen some outstanding performances from the young defensemen, but who's coaching those guys, right? So I think really, really underreported and underappreciated new addition to the team. I'll be like, it's really hard shoes to fill with Luke Richardson because he was so respected by that locker room and with that decor. So not an easy role for him to come in. So early on here, even though again the success of the young decor is a little bit inflated because of the really high and quality goaltending that we've got. Overall, just from an eye test perspective, it's a lot better than anybody could have predicted. And I think Robida has a lot to do with that.
I go with Kirby Dak for me. Dak, I think I think a lot of people complain a little bit because of skating, because of this, because of that. I think Kirby Dak have a show exactly what look like. Maybe one of the best on the transition and the best with a good vision, everything like that. So we'll be interested in what they're going to do with him. Hopefully they will keep them together for 20 games to see what it look like, and that will give them a direction for next year of what they are going to do after that. They can keep him on the winger or the center. So I think for me, I would go with this one over there. My next question, guys, is about that enough or? And Marco said, what is or? So Montreal have an extra forwards coming. They have right now, and they have to figure out something before Tuesday when he will be reinstalled out of the ER. What that story is really strange. The guy is sick, but he's a part of the team. He's followed the team. He's at the game, everything like that. So I'm not going to talk a little bit more about this, but there's a subject on the time.
You should ask Martin Saint-Louis what he thinks, Coach. See how he responds.
Yeah.
You can answer that one. But that enough or what? So what do you expect in the next couple at the beginning of the week? Because they have to figure out something. They cannot stay there, so they have an extra now. Could buy some time because Anderson's going to be suspended.
Yeah, that's the thing. That might be a lifeline for Kent Hughes right now if Anderson gets suspended for a game or two.
I think he called the league to give them 5 games.
Yeah, give him more time to work here. And I think the fact that they've put Dadonov on IR was really just a way to delay. I mean, it looks a little bit fishy, and just the way the journalist actually asked Saint Louis, so what's going on with Dadonov, and he didn't lose it, but the way he looked at the journalist, like, guys, stop it. Chantal told you he's injured, and that's it. There's nothing more to it. It was like, whoa. I don't know if you remember when he was first nominated, François Gagnon from RDS said, he made me uneasy when I interviewed him as a player sometimes because of the way he reacted sometimes. And he was like, I'm a bit dreading this. And this week we got to see why. that was the first time we saw that. I hope that Kent Hughes will not go for an easy decision, which would be to send back down a guy who can go down without waivers. I hope he's going to realize that you've got Deadwood there. I mean, no matter how much you try to showcase, Deadwood is going to stay Deadwood, so no one's going to buy your Deadwood, so just waive it. I mean, whether it's Dadonov or Hoffman, I don't care. Just wave one of them. I've had it with them. I mean, I was watching last night. Hoffman, he had like one good shift in first, and then he started doing those really soft pass where he gets the puck and then he's trying to send it. You can see who he wants to send it with, but to send it who he wants to send it to, but he just doesn't have the strength to do it, and it just turns out into a nice little soft giveaway, and you're just like, but what are you doing? And then the net is empty at the end of the game, and who's on there? Hoffman. But why? Why? So,
I think at one point,
Hoffman, one of them.
I think at one point he tried to do a one-timer behind the goal line last night.
Yes, he did. I was in the stand and I was like, but you're behind the goal line. What are you doing? There's a net there.
He missed a slap shot also, I think, no?
My name is Mike Hoffman. I do one-timers. It doesn't matter where.
I think he missed a slap shot yesterday. I think he miscalled the puck. Like the puck to go nowhere. But he used them on PK yesterday. So.
Yeah,
but he's at the stage where even he knows he's dead wood. The confidence is not even there anymore. So what good is that going to do? Nothing.
You guys, we have to be careful too. Right? I don't know if you saw on Twitter, but there's the I think the Reddit Habs or the Habs Reddit account on Twitter was being very critical of Mike Hoffman, and it turns out that he liked one of their tweets. So I think Mike Hoffman is a pretty voracious consumer of social media. So Mike, if you're watching this, I'm sorry. I've been very critical. We just want the best for you. Just score goals.
And for the team.
Yes.
All right. So we hit the 9:40. We hit the 40-minute of the podcast. We're going to go to the next thing, guys. This is we started this last week, I believe, Marco, right? And then we're going to consider this. But this week you have a new opening about this one. So we're talking about it's time, ladies and gentlemen, to bring the duel between Karine and Marco about a subject. Every week we select a subject, and this is going to be to keep the 3D rookies or not. This is the duel we're going to get. The both of you are going to give us, honestly, your comments about this one there. So this is the time of the duel. For me, I'm just the referee, and I'm going to give you the winner of this contest between both of you.
All right.
Okay. Who gets to throw the first punch then?
No, ladies first.
All right. Like Coach told us earlier, the question is really, when Madison comes back, what do you do? Do you keep 3 rookie Ds in the lineup? And my answer to that is yes, absolutely you do. I think before the season, it was obvious that Kent Hughes, he said he didn't want to go in the season with 2 rookie Ds, and he ended up having to go with 3, and it went very well. But once Madison is back, I see Goulet, Harris, Jakai, Savard, Edmondson, and Madison in the lineup. And I see Wideman being the 7D as he was meant to be when he was originally signed, again, just to be, like a good presence around the team, a good leader, a guy that knows his role, is paid league minimum to be the 7th guy, and just, stay there. So, yeah, I wouldn't go down. I guess some people would make the argument that, well, you've got some, trading chips there. It's going well. Why not trade one of your defensemen now? I would not do that. I know that the results with Edmondson hasn't been proven yet, but come on, the guy's played 2 games this season, so let's give him time to settle in. I'd keep him around. He's good leadership. They gave him an A, and when they did give him an alternate captaincy, they said that they wanted some stability in leadership. So I don't see them turn around and trade him right away. I think Savard's been doing above and beyond for now, and he's under contract for another 2 years after this one. So for now, I would be keeping him to facilitate the transition when other youngsters come up. But yeah, for now, that would be my plan. I keep 3 rookies, and they are Goulet, Harris.
You've got Kovacevic off your list. One of the only right-handed shots that we have.
Kovacevic, and I I'd rather invest times in the guys that we've drafted and developed. I know we haven't drafted Jakai, but his story is amazing and he brings something to the table that no one does aside from him. I mean,
So,
the grit, the toughness, he's got better speed than Kovacevic, I'm sorry, and the quickness in decision as well. So
yeah, I'm
I
not saying
need
you have
to
to
think.
choose. You don't have to choose between Jacky and Kovacevic. I'm just saying that the one rare thing that we don't have is a right hand shooting defenseman. It sounds like it's more based on, you're like, we can't be biased towards the people that we drafted. We just need assets that can do the job,
Oh,
right?
I
So,
know we just need
yeah.
assets, but I like those assets better than I like Kovacevic. From what I've seen
So
from him, sometimes it's just too slow, doesn't decide fast enough.
his numbers are amazing,
I
though. Like his underlying numbers are really good.
Yeah, but you
To,
know what?
to me,
I
like
mean,
the
I've
concern
got
is that you're
stats.
going
They're
to
not.
move one of those guys to the right. Like we saw last night what happened when you move Harris to the right. We saw probably his worst game of the whole season last night.
That was
Jack
what
eye.
a partner is never played with.
Sorry, go ahead.
That was what a partner is never played with. You got to give it some time. You can't say, well, it worked with Kovacevic and that's it. Those guys, those veterans, they've earned the right to come back into the lineup, and there's going to be some
Yeah.
adjustments as they learn to, match with the new guys. But I don't
So
think,
here's an alternate solution. So I don't know if Cindy would do this, but why not go 11-7 instead of having full complement of forwards. So I think you lose Weidman. I think Weidman comes out of the lineup, but why not go dress 7 defensemen? It will allow Saint Louis to. So it's kind of to what we were talking about before. They can clear some of that dead wood that's taking up time. You can then give Slavkovsky additional minutes maybe by playing him up and down the lineup a little bit because you have one less forward, so Saint Louis can kind of play around with that, and then you can kind of you use Jacky in very specific situations, or you can use Kovacevic in very specific situations. So to me, I would much rather keep I would rather keep the 4 young rookie defensemen. You're going to reintegrate Madison and Edmondson's already back. So why not play with 7D instead?
Well, my problem with that is that as things stands, Saint Louis is already struggling to give minute to Slavkovsky. Typically, when you've got 3 complete lines and 2 more forwards, they struggle to get time. I know that you're meant to play with them in the lineup and all that, but that works on paper. In practice, yes, they're often forgotten, and you can't afford to not give enough time to Slavkovsky right now.
How does
That would be
removing
my
one
problem with
forward
that.
give it less time? How does removing one forward from the lineup I don't understand how it would result in him getting less ice time.
Because sometimes you just forget about your 2 extra guys. You go with your usual lines, and you kind of forget those 2 extra guys that don't have a line assigned. But the thing that Saint we did say is that he doesn't want to sit anyone for too long. So I wouldn't be surprised to see like a rotation of defensemen. That wouldn't be surprising at all. Like I've said, which 3 I'd keep, but I think he'd want to rotate people in and out because he doesn't want anyone to sit for too long. But we'll see.
Yeah, like I just again, like I think we have a lot of forward depth. We need to resolve that. To me, I would much rather have all those defensemen playing. It gives you a lot more options. You're not putting Harris or Jacky. You'll still have to put one of them in that position, but at least one of them won't have to play on the right. When I don't think they've performed that well there yet. So I like it. Martin Saint Louis so far hasn't been the best at being kind of like somebody who's a good bench coach, like an in-game adjustment kind of coach. So I think this would be a great opportunity for Saint Louis to get that practice, to have to play with one less forward, to really kind of work on his in-game coaching and his in-game management. I think so. Not only will it help the development of those defensemen and maybe even give some different opportunities to some of the forwards, but from a coaching staff perspective, this is also a year of development for them, right? So giving them the opportunity to really be on the ball during the game to understand which players are going, which ones are you going to give, which forward are you going to give that additional time to. Listen, the Tampa Bay Lightning played with 7 defensemen almost all of last year and throughout a lot of the playoffs at some points as well too. So it's not that strange of a thing to do, and I think It sounds strange to say, and maybe I'm only saying it because it's a duel, and I'm trying to be the opposite of what you're saying. But I think it's an interesting idea that they should explore.
I'm not saying it's not an interesting idea, but I'm saying though there's a lot of difference between Martin St. Louis and John Cooper.
And secondly, Karine is not the same lineup.
Also, but yeah.
So
I will give you my idea because both of you I'm disagree with both of you. So surprisingly, no. First of all, I will let it go Whiteman. That would be my point about this one there. On the flip side, you have already 3 players unhappy every time you put 3 forward out, Marko. Now you're going to have 7 defensemen unhappy now because they don't have no TOI, unfortunately. So that would be too much unhappy. Not said you cannot do it one game, something like that. But I think you're going to surtax the players forward when you play that way over there because you have power play, you have PK, everything like that. And usually you have a player like Suzuki play on both a special team. And you play only 3 center, that's complicated a little bit, different thing like that. So for me, I would not go 11-7 for sure. Like I said, maybe one game, but I would not apply that for me because you have too many extra forwards. So why to take out 3 forward and the player be on the rafters. The rafter said, why us and why they play 7 defensemen? So it's going to be a little bit a locker room problem a long term if they were doing this way. So for me, that's what I believe about this one over there. On the flip side, I think it's time to Chris Whiteman go out for me because he's not bring anything around the team on the ice. Now, I can understand point of view leadership, but because you already have Savard over there, you already have Munson over there, you already have Madison. What Whiteman bring more on that side, I don't think so. That's changed anything. And I would just, he would stay Laval, he would play Laval, and nobody would claim him. And it would be fine. He liked to play Montreal. He would be accepted. He would stay there one more year, and then after that be the end. But for me, I would prefer to keep at 25 years old and see what he's going to go a long term or a short term, but we'll see what he go. And Montreal don't have enough right defensemen. I would prefer to develop my 3 rookies on the left side versus on the right side if I can do it. And you can put nothing wrong to sit Harris one night, nothing wrong to sit Coley one night, nothing wrong to sit Jacky one night and watching the game. It's sometimes better to get out of their eyes and watching the game perfectly from the top. That would be my press. Only thing we are all agree. That was the question. Is about we all agree to keep the 3 rookies and the Montreal Canadiens for upcoming season for the rest of the season. I think that's great way. And I think I want to bring you a point, and I forget about this, Karen. They have another notch about Caden Cooley. Do you believe you have another thing he can, because he's everything. Like the kid is amazing. Like they have something where he can become better. I'm not sure. Like he's already like a veteran defenseman already in the NHL.
Well, given how young he is, I wouldn't be surprised if there's not a notch there. So, it's just a matter of wait, see, develop him properly, and you'll see if he's got another notch. But he's only 20 years old, and, defensemen are meant to develop late. So that's scary for other teams, not for us.
Yeah.
For other teams, it is scary. And
so the one thing I could say that he could add to his game, something that I've seen a bit of a pattern, is losing like battles in front of the net. Even just last night, right? Like I forget who it was. I think it was Riley that kind of outmuscled them to get to that rebound.
So I think it was on PK on power play, no?
Power play, yeah. But still, though, like it's I believe most of the goals, like 4 of the last 5 goals that he's been on the ice for, was him, not being able to control the player's stick or upper body. So just he's a strong kid, but he'll get stronger and just be able to win those battles a bit more.
Awesome. Good bet. We're going to finish like we're about 7 minutes. So let's see what we have at the upcoming week preview, week number 5. And Montreal Canadiens are going to play 3 games this week. And Tuesday again, the Detroit Red Wings. Then Vancouver at home. And then Saturday, Pittsburgh, the Penguins. Where Detroit are pretty 500, a little bit higher. Vancouver won the won 3 the last 4 game, but now they lost an OT yesterday, and then Saturday Pittsburgh are in slum. Maybe hopefully they not wake up this week, but it will be interesting. So what do you expect about the 3 game you record, or maybe what you're thinking? And I would like to ask you how many game Samuel Montembeault get in the net this week.
Well, there's a back-to-back, so Mounty's bound to get one of those 2 games. So I think Mounty gets at least 1 game this week. And I see Montreal going 1-1-1. So 1 win, 1 loss, 1 OT loss as well. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it'll be better than this week. Maybe. I think we squeeze in a win here somewhere. I don't think we'll be against Detroit. They maybe still got into our heads from that first game. It's probably the worst period of hockey I've seen the team play all season, was that first period against Detroit. So maybe that'll be a really interesting one, because will tell us how they're able to learn from and see if they're able to rebound from from a psychological perspective, having a rough game against a team. So that'll be a really interesting one to watch. Can we trade for Tyler Toffoli just for the Vancouver game? If so, then I would give us a very good chance there. If not, you're going to be facing a really hungry Vancouver team that is trying to claw their way back to respectability here. So I think it might be tough. And again, we're in Pitt, so similar to what I said about Detroit being in Montreal's head after last game, I suspect we might kind of have that same thing with Pittsburgh. They're struggling. I think it's going to be a bit closer, just because Pittsburgh is also going to be desperate, depending on how well they did earlier in the week. So I'll say we go. I'll say 1-2 for the week, and Montembeault probably gets the Vancouver start.
I was listening to you before you started talking, Karine and Marco. I was going to say, you know what? I'm going to start shocking everybody. I'm going to set 2-1-0. That will be my week. Now I'm going to set 0-1 and 2. So that would be a 0-1 and 2. A back-to-back is very hard to win. So I decided to 2. I cannot get 2 there, so maybe 1 there. But I will said on the road at Detroit, you're absolutely right. But the way they play against the big guys, the team are coming. I'm not big, although the fact Detroit with Soderblom, but that line. But I think Vancouver, they can handle Vancouver and they can handle Pittsburgh, because that's the kind of style of play they play. They can skate with them. They can. It's not like the same big. So for me, that's the week I'm looking for. Play again a team like a little bit of the same size and the same kind of system, concept, whatever they call it now. And that would be interesting.
That always helps.
So again?
And they also get to play Petrie, which always helps.
That'll be interesting. CP3 back again at home, honestly, for a second time. Hopefully, he will not go to the penalty box like he did the first time, for sure, about this. So we are almost at the end of the show. Honestly, we knocked the door. Anything in particular, like we talked the record, but what you're looking for this week for the Montreal Canadiens?
Well, I'm looking forward to see what Kent Hughes does with the lineup. I'm looking forward to see if we finally burn some deadwood, or if we carry on with, the balder that's the ball and chains that we're dragging. That's what I want to see this week.
Marco?
Yeah, same thing. I'm trying to hire some KGB to go to Washington and try to get some intel on what's going on there. I think that's an ideal trading partner for Dadonov, because they still really want to contend, but it's a really tough situation in terms of cap, right? So it's probably why it's taking so long. There's I bet you anything it's going to be a really weird deal that happens between Washington and Montreal in some way to make this happen. So I'm really curious to see that, but I would be surprised, that it takes much longer here, guys. Like, I know Martin Saint-Louis really wants to have that strong culture, and I don't think Dadonov's being unprofessional. I'm sure he's handling it like a pro, but they understand the dynamics of a dressing room, and I'm sure that they're getting to that point where they need to address it. So
both of you are agree that Dadonov is not going to be with Montreal at the end of the week.
I would be surprised. But it's a very complicated trade to do because of the cap situation. But
I think there's
that's
actually more chances that someone gets waived than a trade happens for now, but we'll see.
So one is going to be on the waiver. One is going to be possibly get trade. I will say to you, I'll go to another direction. Washington just claim Obi Kubel, so I don't think so. They're going to make a trade with the Montreal Canadiens, and they're going to have a break contract. He's going to return to KHL.
You think Obi Kubel can play in their top 6 though?
Yeah, but the point is like they don't want to give anything in return. Give something like that.
Well,
like
Montreal doesn't want anything. They just want to get rid of him.
Or a pick,
but it's
whatever.
Just, how do you make the cap work? How do you make the cap work?
But possibly because the salary could be another problem for them. And I will see what happens about this. But I don't think so they will trade with Washington. I could be around here, but I don't think so they will go that direction with that part for the Montreal Canadiens for this week. Anything else, Karine? Any news you want to talk about? Other things? What's going on with Montreal Canadiens?
Well, on Saturday the 12th, prior to the game against Pittsburgh, it's the Habs Summit organized by a group of fans that each year actually do that. It's kind of a charity raffle where everyone who attends brings a gift or something from their collection. People buy tickets to the raffle, you can win prizes. And at the end of the day, everything goes to the Montreal Canadiens Children Foundation. That's going to be held on the 12th at 2 o'clock at McLean's Irish Pub, I believe it is. I'm going there next Sunday. That's next Saturday, so that's always good fun. If you're in town and you would like to drop by, just send me a message on Twitter and I'll give you the details. Very good fun. Nice prizes to win.
Marco, anything what maybe both of you can tell us how they can reach you? I would put Karine right there. Marco, you can add after that. Karine, there's a way you can reach her. She, of course, with the hockeybars.com. Marco, the best way to reach you, if you don't mind, if you want to sharing.
Yeah, definitely on Twitter. I'll put a comment with my Twitter handle, so you can check out my Twitter handle in the comments. One thing I wanted to mention, Coach, it's pretty funny. I was at a doctor in a waiting room at a doctor's office this week, and some guy, really nice guy, came up to me. He's like, "Hey, aren't you on Habs lunch?" And I was kind of surprised, and I didn't even really. I was waiting. I had my headphones on, and I didn't even ask him his name or say thank you for watching. I said, all I did is I corrected him and said, "No, it's Habs brunch," and then he walked away. So if you're watching, I'm sorry I forgot to, I didn't even think to ask your name, but thank you for watching, and please leave me a comment with your name. It was really nice meeting you, and sorry for not, taking a little bit more time to talk.
The way we're doing right now, maybe changing for brunch for lunch, because sometimes we never set up at 11 o'clock a.m.
Maybe you're right.
Something like that. So that's conclude, guys. Another great show. But before we leave, we want to invite everybody. Don't forget, guys, to click on the like. That'd be awesome. And then, of course, subscribe to Hockey Nation our show. And leave me some comments. Leave some comment to us. We try to respond to each one of you. Glad to having you, Karine, aboard, back with us. I think you missed a lot of people ask her where is she, but now she's back with us. Then Marco continues to bring some nuggets every single week. It was a great duel. Nobody won this week. I think is a rematch. You have to go next week. Will be another duel between both of you. Will be interesting. The next subject about this one. Marco, you want to say something else?
Let us know in the comments if who you thought won in the duel.
Oh, that's a pretty good about that one over there. Who's won that one over there?
With the decisions that are made this week. I mean, at the end of the day, it's St. Louis who decides who wins. It's not our coach.
I should be upset about Karine. She beat me on the fantasy hockey, but this is a subject for another time. And I'm upset right now. I'm thrilled by 3.6 or 3.3 point right now. So I'm not very happy about that one. Another bad week for me, but it's okay. We're going to consider this. We wish you an amazing, great weeks, everybody. Thanks, Kevin, again, and Marco. Can wait to see you next Sunday for another BRUNCH. You Sunday rendezvous. And amazing, great weeks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.